Good day, and it's great to see you again after we had this wonderful workshop yesterday. Donnell actually wrote us if we are alright in sharing our slides, and I thought, well, maybe I just give the presentation again because slides are not all the time self-explanatory, and I could probably just enrich it with some metadata, which is this video. Anyhow, my name is Thomas Koentges, and I am Project ArXe.type really, because although I'm from the University of Otago, the project was actually developed by the university while I was at the University of Canterbury, and I'm also collaborating with the University of Leipzig. But this project still looks for a new home, there are several reasons why it has not a home yet, but I think it's a pretty good project, and I'm happy to explain you the crowdsourcing aspect of this project. Project ArXe.type, let them do chores, how adolescents can help us reconstructing ancient text, and hopefully have fun doing so, by Thomas Koentges. Enjoy. The text itself, is which I'm researching, but we could actually do it with any ancient text, is a satirical. The problem with ancient texts is that they're copies of copies of copies of copies, and we don't possess any originals anymore. So we try to use all these copies and reconstruct the original text. And we are not reconstructing the original directly, we first reconstruct an archetype, which is the copy that all manuscripts which we now possess originated from, so derived from, so this last copy. In case of these satirica, this copy, this archetype was most certainly placed in France somewhere, maybe Saint-Orsire in the 8th or 9th century. Yeah, so we're trying to reconstruct this archetype and then trying to do some more corrections to the text so we get to the original as closely as possible. The satirica is only fragments of a fictional prosematic text, so 35,000 words are extant, but the whole text must have consisted out of at least 120 to 140,000 words. Some scholars assume that it had 400,000 words, but I think that's way over the top, and there are good reasons for that, but let's not go there today. The fragments, there are fragments which look connected, and we can actually build some kind of plot out of these fragments, and these are 33,000 fragments, and we have still 51 fragments where we don't know where to place it into the plot, and these are another 2,000 words roundabout. And a lot of the manuscripts which are extant, and there are around about 20 to 30 manuscripts from which I know, but I'm sure that there are some more out there. They are owned mainly by European libraries, but they're digitized, open access, and sometimes the libraries, if they're not digitized yet, they have indicated interest that they're going to digitize it. So we have a base with what we can work. Fair to say, one of the rare early modern editions, which is very important for the text, is actually in New Zealand at the University of Otago, so that's quite exciting. So New Zealand also on the map for the satirica. The transmission is highly contaminated, and this means that the manuscripts influence each other, especially in the 16th and 15th century. And the problem with that is that they're not clearly marked, so we don't know where the influences are actually coming from. So this was a lot of wordy, verbose information. It actually looks a little bit easier if we actually look at the text itself. We can see on the right and on the left on the text some meta information, which are just paragraphs, which is a family, the manuscript family, who's speaking, and there's also some alternative reading on the bottom. This is how a Latin text looks in a text critical edition, and all this information are abbreviated but important. It has been criticized already in the first half of the 20th century that the book is not the best format for this text. But still, even if we move to the digital age, all the online available editions of digital text follow to some extent this book format. And I propose that we think out of the box. Yeah. So let's just completely forget about the books and come up with something new. Well, still has to transfer the message, and still has to transfer or express the transmission. And as I said before, the transmission of the Satirica is fairly complex. This is the easy part. This is the transmission of the text before the 16th century. So there's not a lot of contamination going on. You see this little family tree, and you see that transmissions of ancient text works like genetics pretty much, and we can establish a family tree. But you can also clearly see that L down there has influences from phi and lambda. The omega you see on top, this is the reconstructed archetype. So we don't really have this manuscript anymore, but we can reconstruct this manuscript. From the 16th century, unfortunately, the transmission looks a little bit like this. And this is actually the abbreviated and simple model of what was really going on. So you can actually see that the transmission is fairly complex, and the problem is that we're not really sure what was going on, and this makes it really difficult to reconstruct the original text as we would like to have it. So far, the reconstruction of the original text always depends on the individual scholar, and somebody in the workshop said, is this always the thing, is this always the real thing humanities produce, or is it our best effort? And any ancient text, maybe except of Virgil, which has a very, very neat transmission, but every ancient text, it's always only the reconstruction is our best effort. It's not the real deal. And here's where crowdsourcing comes in, because I think crowdsourcing could improve this text and could actually make a better version than a scholar could produce. And here's project ArXe.type. It's ArXe.type. What looks like an X is actually a Greek chi, like in LaTeX, to give it a little bit of a techie influence and also a little bit of an ancient classics influence. And E-type, of course, stands for the electronic format. It really has three stages. The first stage is a digitization of the transcription, which will apply some crowdsourcing and some e-teaching techniques. The second stage is the transmission of the text phase. There's no crowdsourcing involved. This is systematization and addition, and I will just very, very briefly today say something about this. And the third station is a commentary and display station, where we again have the crowdsourcing involved. A little bit more complex than in phase A, but it's still as easy as ABC. We also have the e-learning thing going on there. Anyhow, let's go to the crowdsourcing aspect of the text. First goals are the transcription of manuscripts in early modern editions. So early modern editions are printed like our text now, so we can actually apply just normal OCR software, can throw it on the early modern editions, and they will produce a sufficiently enough result. But we can't do this for the manuscripts. There are manuscripts from the 9th century, from the 12th century, from the 15th century, so we have the Caroling minuscule, we have humanist handwriting, and so all kinds of difficult stuff, very, very difficult to read for the machine, but luckily we, the humans, our human OCR technology is normally better than the OCR technology by a computer. But of course we need some control mechanism for us. So we use crowdsourcing to transcribe the different manuscripts. And we use crowdsourcing to control the transcription, which means we let people not only transcribe one manuscript once, we let more people transcribe the same manuscript, and then we can actually compare these different transcriptions, and if there's a mistake, it will flag up. And then a philologist or an editor can look at this flags and correct the transcription there, and we have a neat transcription. But where can we source our crowd from? Where can we find all those volunteers? This is a big question. And then also, how can we find people who can read this older hands? Because manuscripts are written in older hands. Caroling minuscule, humanist hand, And there's the thing where the chores come into it, because high school students show some interest in classics. We have some race and race in the enrollments in classics in high school, and a clear expression of classics is an important subject. For some reason, it doesn't show directly at university, and I think that's because at university, classics still seems to be some of these ivory tower disciplines. And I think we can change that. I think we can involve students from early on in research, in classical research, engage them in the subject, and yeah, directly grab them from the get-go, pretty much. So, two problems mean two goals. Transcriptions by simulant humans are needed, and fostering the interest of students in classics. That's fairly easy. So, we were going to pitch the project at schools and universities and offer free electronically taught paleography courses. And they could look, yeah, pretty much similar to what I'm doing here. Yeah, I could explain the different hands and so on, and people could make notes. Of course, I would speak a little bit slower because I don't try to get it done within 10 minutes, which, by the way, I will speak longer than 10 minutes, so be forewarned. I take just a little bit of more freedom for my own time here, since we're not bound by time constraints of yesterday's amazing workshop. Yeah. Big credit again to Donnell and Sydney for setting up this project, and thanks to Ray for an amazing keynote. This was a really good workshop. Anyhow, back to crowdsourcing and back to ArXe.type. So we first established an online course to educate teachers and teaching fellows in Latin paleography, which means we also we also source our own controlling crowd. Yeah, so they will try to push the project along in schools and can correct the students and even make assignments out of it and so on. So we're offering them this amazing tool, and we offer this course for students and for pupils, yeah, preferably supported, of course, by their teachers and teaching fellows. And then we're giving them the assignments, and the assignments include transcribing of not yet transcribed manuscript. So we have our transcription. The teacher has an interesting new tool, which makes hopefully the student engage a little bit more, and still has a control mechanism which makes it easy for him to mark. They get some feedback from us. They get some praise from us, and maybe we can even establish some competitions between schools. So if we have it in more than one country, we could even establish competition between countries from different schools. So the course is there, and the tool itself is hosted by the university, but the photo-digitized manuscripts are hosted by the libraries, and the users, the students, are of course in their school. That means the university is a gateway and connector between schools and library, and between interested public and libraries, which is also a nice benefit for the libraries, because people get aware of what is actually in their special collection and start using it. So, and I mean, this is the sense of a special collection, that people actually use it. It's not that it's hidden somewhere and nobody's using it. We have to bring the knowledge out to the people. That's the thing. Yeah. And of course, this is a win-win-win situation. The students win because they have do real research and have a positive feeling about their contribution. The libraries offer interested public students research, get access to their special collection and foster its use. It's always nice. And the universities involve students early in research and foster interest for humanities and for information technology. That means, hey, look at these both subjects. They're pretty cool, aren't they? So the second step of the project is actually producing, after we have all this manuscript, trying to stematize this manuscript. That means we have the pure manuscripts, which we won through crowdsourcing and through the controlling mechanism of crowdsourcing, and then we let the computer compare the different text. In a nutshell, and I only have time to say it in a nutshell, genetics and textual transmission, they're based on the same principle rules. They follow the same basic principles. So there are mistakes or mutations, and the mutations and the mistakes are actually inherited by copies of or derivations of a certain strain. And as we can categorize in genetics into strains, we can categorize manuscripts into manuscript families. So there are tools out there, there are algorithms out there which actually can compare the code. And if you look at the Satirica, and it's 35,000 words, and we assume an average word size of, let's say, average word size of maybe 6 words, 6 letters per word. So then this would mean that we have 210,000 letters, plus maybe 35,000 spaces, plus some punctuation, roughly 250,000 signs. Yeah, so we compare codes with a maximum of 250,000 signs, and this is not a problem, I guess. So we let the machine do that, and we let the machine do some computing, and after we run this demo, we can actually see what's really important. We can cut out the mistakes and produce a new edition. And then the second crowdsourcing aspect comes in. And the second crowdsourcing aspect is that we have this text floating around. It's not really correct because the standard edition is sufficiently objective, but it doesn't mean that it's the correct text. We still need to apply some scholarly knowledge on it to actually get the jump from the archetype to the original Latin text. And then there's the second thing: an online edition always invites that the text is enriched with some metadata. And we want this. We want talks, we want articles, we want an article linker, we want pretty much a commentary in all kinds of different language linked to our edition of the text. So this is a great reading experience, and again, it is the most informative text of the Satirica you can ever build. So there are comments, micro and macros. You can comment on the complete Satirica, you can comment on sentences or words, you can propose corrections, and there's some general scholarship on it as well. So after a registration process, and it's important to register it because we actually want to have some learned audience. We don't really want public people that can access it, they should access it, but we want to make sure that they actually have some knowledge. And so we just want to know a little bit about the background information. And can access the edition of the Satirica and enrich the text with metadata. Then the user always chooses to give metadata to either a word, a paragraph, a chapter, a longer passage, or the complete text as he chooses. And then he classifies the metadata. He says it's a text correction, it's a commentary, it's a teaching video, it's an article, etc. Yeah? And he is peer-reviewed by other registered users, which means that, oh no, you're really wrong there, and we know that scholars like to peer review and scholars like to discuss, and we try to get this discussion on our platform, on our text, so that we have the best information about the Satirica, the best information about the text, which means we've built an awesome text, fostered classics and humanities and computer technology in high schools, opened the access to libraries, and yeah, and have a text with a great commentary, openly accessible. Then easy and openly accessible portal that fosters the digital use of libraries and collections is our result. An entertaining online teach for teachers and students. And an extensively marked up text and commentary for scholars and tertiary students. I think this is, again, win-win-win situation. Cool, isn't it? Thank you very much.